Hello there and welcome back to a brand new video. So today this is going to be kind of my second alternate history, it's not really a series, just a video on my channel, but it's going to be what if Condoleezza Rice, the former Secretary of State for George Bush Jr. From 2005 to 2009, was the Republican nominee for president in 2008. And I think this is interesting because this is kind of a surprise, a very unlikely scenario, as she never actually campaigned for president. But there was rumors in 2008 that she was going to run. There were rumors in 2012 she was going to run, and she was in the top 3 choices for VP for McCain, Romney, and Trump. I think all 3 of them had her in the top 3 for being vice president. So she very easily could have been on a ticket. So with that, we're going to do what if she was the nominee in 2008, and as you can see by this map, she would do a little bit better than John McCain. She would win North Carolina because of her southern appeal. She'd hang on to Indiana, and she'd hang on to Indiana, and she'd make Florida much closer because of her, like I said, southern appeal, more establishmentarian. The people of color wouldn't vote as much for Obama. They'd still go for Obama, obviously, but not by the crazy heavy margins they did. She would do a little bit better with them, allowing her to hang on to North Carolina, Indiana. Indiana would probably be very close still because Obama did get those the white working class vote. He got a decent amount of it. So Condoleezza Rice is a bit better, but Obama still wins election 2008. So we go to 2012. We have Mitt Romney is the nominee. No changes there. He picks Marco Rubio for his VP, and he manages to flip back Florida, and he does a little bit better in the Rust Belt, because Republicans are a little more inspired to turn out for Romney because of Condoleezza Rice's better showing. Obama does, in 2012, Republicans thought Obama could be beatable, but imagine that same energy, but by a lot. And Florida was very close anyway, so with a little more Republican energy and a little more Republican appeal to people of color, Hispanics, African Americans, I do think that Romney would have won it very narrowly, probably by 2,000 Bush margins, but still pretty close. And he would make Missouri a safe state. Missouri would swing even heavier to the right. So, Romney would do alright. He'd do a little bit better. And Obama would not win by the crazy margin he did. But, it's still a decent margin, but not by a crazy amount. Now we go to 2016. And this is where it gets interesting, because Donald Trump has just been selected as the Republican nominee for president. And, he needs someone who's going to get those more establishment-type voters out, who's going to kind of undo the narrative being pushed against him by the media about his opinions on people of color, people calling him racist. I'm not going to go into any detail on that. I'm just saying that he's in this scenario who's looking for someone, and in 2016, he's looking for someone who can kind of appeal to those two things, or kind of get the media off his back, but appeal to those voters. And so, since Condoleezza Rice, she was she's still pretty popular in the Republican Party, and after her close victory in 2008, not close victory, but it didn't seem like a huge blowout in 2008. And in 2012, with Romney doing a little bit better in all places, kind of attributed to her, she's still very popular, and so Trump chooses her as the nominee, and I think he would do much better with her on the ticket. I think he would win the states of Nevada and New Hampshire, and probably do a little bit better in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. A lot of those states, he'd probably do half a point better or so. So Trump and Condoleezza Rice pretty handily defeat Hillary Clinton and Tim Kaine, and they become the 45th president and the 46th or 47th vice president. I'm not completely sure. So they do 4 years. Trump gets all of his agenda passed. He actually does a little better. He gets more of his agenda passed. Stuff gets done sooner. The border wall goes up. All this stuff happens a lot sooner, and it's a lot more efficient because, Mike Pence, he was kind of an outsider. He was kind of he wasn't really he was in the House, and then he was governor of Indiana, but Condoleezza Rice plays more of a role than Mike Pence, and they actually do better. So we're going to go with 2020 now, and in 2020, obviously the COVID-19 happens, but and that plays an input as well in some states, but the Black Lives Matter rallies after the George Floyd killing in Minneapolis, the killing of George Floyd in Minneapolis. I'm not going into any detail on my opinions on it, but obviously the African Americans and people of color and liberals, they're very angry at Donald Trump, like they were in our timeline, and they want him gone. But with Condoleezza Rice as campaigning along his side, it kind of undoes that a little bit. Yeah, I mean, he still obviously loses the African American vote, but the Hispanic vote also trends right, a little more heavily, and the media's attacks don't stick as well, so he does a little bit better with suburban voters, and he actually wins re-election against Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. I would put him as winning re-election because the African American trends in Atlanta for Joe Biden, those don't really happen. I mean, they do, but not to the extent. And even with the extent they did, he barely lost. He barely won it. Joe Biden barely won Georgia with the trends that happen. So Trump wins it narrowly, probably by half a point. Philadelphia, same, and Wisconsin, same thing. Milwaukee and Philadelphia, they don't. I mean, yeah, they turn out heavily for Joe Biden, but not the extent to win. And then in Nevada, Hispanic trends continue. Nevada actually gets more red, kind of like it did in our timeline. Pretty much stayed the exact same, but it trended red compared to the national average. And in Arizona, I mean, obviously, other than New Hampshire and Michigan, Arizona is other than losing New Hampshire and Michigan, Trump does significantly worse in Arizona because he's, the trends there, and he's not really in populism. It can work in Arizona, but Trump is not the ideal candidate. So he does win Arizona, but by a very narrow margin. And he loses Michigan because, yes, there's a less turnout in Detroit, but it's still enough, along with the suburban trends, to put it into a lean column for Joe Biden. And kind of same with New Hampshire. I mean, it hits incumbents anyways, and it swung so heavily that even with Condoleezza Rice and a slightly more establishment moderate, I do think New Hampshire would be lean blue. But yeah, I think Pennsylvania could be lean blue. I would consider putting Pennsylvania as lean blue, but that said, I still think it's going to be red. Probably by a very thin margin. Pennsylvania would probably be the closest state, as it is Biden's home state. He get that white working class vote out, but with less turnout in terms of the African American vote in Philadelphia, I do think that Trump would narrowly hang on to PA, probably similar to Michigan in 2016 margins. But with that, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this scenario and hope it's semi-realistic. I think it is. I think there's a little stretching going on, but I do think it's interesting to look at, and even with a little stretching, I do think it's realistic. So I thought, why don't I make a video on it? So thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next video.